for inviting us to talk about our history, which is pretty integral to Ruehle County, which you will see. I'd like to introduce myself as Kate Nowak, and we have Pam Ruehle and Sharon Smith, and so that's the speakers for today. Many of you know or will have known a P.E.O. here in the Valley. As I can ask, how many P.E.O.s here today? So if you know anybody in here, you might know a P.E.O. Today we celebrate the history of P.E.O. and our ties to the Yampa Valley. P.E.O. is 157 years old. We want to thank all the women in our chapter that read the decades of history to come up with this presentation. Our chapter has been going back since 1912. So we have been serving this valley for 114 years. P.E.O. stands for Philanthropic Education Organization and started in Iowa, at the Iowa Wesleyan College in Mount Pleasant, Iowa, on January 29th, 1869. And it started with 7 young women who wanted a society of their own. They didn't want a sorority. They wanted an organization built on connection, service, and educating women. P.E.O. is a national organization that is also in Canada. Each state or province has a chapter, so there's a Colorado chapter, and then there are chapters are formed in communities. So Ruehle County has one chapter, and the chapters are all labeled by alphabet. And we know our local chapter here in Ruehle County is one of the oldest in Colorado because we have the letter X. So there were 23 other chapters that started before us. Our mission is to continue and help women and their educational opportunities. Our legacy is built on connection, education, and service. More than a social organization, P.E.O. is a dynamic community of women dedicated to empowering one another in both personal and professional spheres. These meaningful connections transcend generations, and you'll hear about some of those generations of P.E.O. today. I can tell you that my mother was a P.E.O. in Chicago, Illinois, where I grew up. And so I grew up stealing all the nuts out of the bowls at the meetings when I was a little girl. And guess what our flower is? It is the Marguerite Daisy. And now I'll turn it over to Pam to share some of how P.E.O. got started in Ruehle County.
Thank you. Well, I am I guess, third generation P.E.O. My grandmother and my mother and myself were all initiated into Chapter D in Wyoming. So the 4th chapter in Wyoming. And Chapter D is even older than Chapter X here. So if you can think of Wild Buffalo Bill, and that there were 7 women in Cody, Wyoming that decided to start a chapter. So P.E.O. does have a long history. And I think one of the things that's interesting is it started in Iowa and moved to the states around, Missouri, Nebraska, and stuff, and then Colorado, and then jumped over to Washington State. And those are some of the oldest states, and now is across the United States, as Kate said, and the Canadian provinces. So we are an international organization. So as was mentioned earlier, Chapter X started in Steamboat Springs on November 14th, 1912. And at the home of Myrtilla Adams Wessels, and included Mrs. Baruther, Miss Ward, Mrs. Carver, Mrs. Bradley, Mrs. Gatley, Mrs. Baker, Mrs. Davies, and Mrs. Allen. And it was organized by the Colorado State Organizer, which is one of the offices at the state level, Mrs. Spencer, who arrived by train. A newspaper article in 1912 announcing the organization of Chapter X P.E.O. in Steamboat Springs said of the organization, The sisterhood stands for refinement. Well, maybe that's gone by the way. Culture and the noblest of its members. And that's so 1912, I think. It is noted in the minutes of the first meeting that it shall be the purpose of this chapter to engage each year in some special philanthropic work. So we will be telling you through our presentation about the philanthropic work that our chapter has done locally and that P.E.O. has done internationally. I looked up, at the time that we started in Steamboat, the population was just a little over 1,200 people, and that year Steamboat became the county seat for Routt County, which I thought was interesting. So through the years, Chapter X has supported many local philanthropic organizations, as well as supporting the projects of the P.E.O. Sisterhood. So I'll be jumping in to describe to you our P.E.O. projects. And the first one started just 5 years before our chapter was organized. It started in 1907, and it's called the Education Loan Fund. And that year, the P.E.O.s had a display at the St. Louis World's Fair. And they had money left over after that display, so they decided to start a loan fund to give women loans to go to school. And the interest rate on those loans is still 2% today, which is amazing. And so we have been giving loans since 1907. In March of 1924, information about the loan fund was read at our chapter, and our chapter gave $55 that year to this fund. Last year, our chapter sponsored 2 Routt County women, one having just received her RN degree, and she hopes to come back to Steamboat. She is a OB nurse on the Front Range right now. And a second who is seeking a Master's of Social Work degree, and she wants to stay in Steamboat and work in the school systems. And between them, they were awarded a total of $27,500, again at 2% interest. So that is the first of many P.E.O. projects you will hear about. In 1914, our chapter started a long association with the hospital. That year, the chapter furnished a room at the hospital and started keeping flowers at the hospital, In 1919, they supplied muslin, towels, and bed linen, painted bedside tables, and gave homemade jellies and literature. I don't know if the literature was homemade, but in 1925, the chapter continued decorating and agreed to supply rooms with linens and draperies every 5 years. In 1956, Chapter X agreed to supply the hospital with the Rocky Mountain News Daily and the Denver Post on Sundays. And in the 60s, Chapter X bought a new incubator for the hospital and made bathrobes. So you can see there's been a long, much needed, relationship, and a relationship that I think represents women in all those things that they did. In 1916, the Steamboat chapter helped charter a chapter in Craig, and that chapter is AJ. So you can see we went from X to AJ in 4 years. And throughout the years, the 2 chapters have done things together, gotten together for socials. Through the years, we've been on committees for state conventions together, and that chapter remains a vibrant chapter as well today. So Kate's going to give you the next several years of our history.
Well, I'm going to start with the 1923 convention. So every year, the Colorado, I think most states, but certainly the Colorado State chapter of P.E.O. has a convention. And we rotate around all the chapters to see who's going to host it. And in 1923, we hosted it with AJ out of Craig. And I just wanted to read you these minutes because they're hilarious. So we co-hosted with Craig Chapter AJ and split all the expenses 50-50. They provided decorations for the Cabin Hotel, where they secured 60 rooms at $1.50 each for 2 people. They put up pine trees as street decorations and booked the Masonic Hall for $30 and they also bought hams. Spouses of Chapter X wore big cowboy hats, carried six-shooters, and wore chaps while driving stagecoaches to deliver the convention delegates to the hotel. That's quite a picture, isn't it? Members of convention rode the train to Craig from Steamboat for a banquet at the Armory and back the next morning. So that was in 1923. And 25, because we are very much associated with education, we are connected with our local library. So the library moved into the Campbell building at 6th and Lincoln, which is currently the Old Town Pub. Chapter X held a book shower to procure books for the library, and some years later, a discussion was held on ways to improve the restroom. Because that's important. A set of Compton encyclopedias and a selection of children's books were replenished. In 1957, members helped catalog books. In 1972, Chapter X sponsored a home tour with the Bud Werner Memorial Library. And guess how much we made? $300. In 1927, the chapter gave money to the town park for a new fence, a rustic bench, fountain, and to go forward to repair the soda spring, which was in deplorable condition. They were notified a few months later by the city that they are waiting for the geologist's report before acting on this. In January 29, Mrs. Etta Blackmere, that sounds familiar, suggested that the group discuss the undertaking of some definite line of educational endowment, perhaps for local girls. In October of the same year, a letter was read from the Welfare Fund discussing the merits and possibilities of financing a local girl for her college work. In future meetings and for the next 3 years, individuals were suggested and some applied for a college loan. P.E.O. members asked the recipients to keep them informed of their studies and activities, which is something we do to this day. When we sponsor a woman for a scholarship or a grant, we stay in touch with them, we send them letters. Occasionally we'll buy $25 Walmart cards each member, and we'll put them in a big envelope and send them to the recipient, and if they have kids, they are delighted. Okay, so this is fun. This is in 1929 too. A donation was made to a high school student for a commencement dress, which is fine. Silk stockings were given to all the graduating girls. In 1934, a new bus line for travel on Highway 40 that would come through Steamboat was being proposed. All civic groups were encouraged to petition the Colorado State Highway authorities to approve this line, and certainly Chapter X was happy to do so, and the bus line still runs today. In 1940, a hot lunch program started at the school feeding 59 to 60 children. Not 61, not 58. And monies were donated to buy glasses and necessities for needy children. And this takes us up to World War II, where Pam will continue on. Okay, you're gonna jump back?
I'm gonna jump back.
Okay.
We skipped something.
Oh.
World War I.
Oh.
And a very important part of Steamboat history. In 1917, it was a very busy year for our chapter. In February of that year, we started an association with the Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club, which is one of those clubs that's now a not-for-profit in our town. And we served sandwiches and coffee at the ski club dances. And 2 years later, members made candy for sale at the ski carnival, and 3 benches were given to the Winter Sports Club for use in their lodge. And 1 year, chapter members made 600 cookies for the Winter Carnival. In the summer of 1917, members served over 4,000 dishes of strawberries at Strawberry Day. I am so sorry I wasn't here when Strawberry Park truly was a strawberry park. And, you know, because I know that they shipped bushels of strawberries back to the Front Range on the train. Then we have the early war efforts. By 1917, World War I had begun, and chapter members helped the war effort in various ways, including making comfort bags for the Red Cross to use for the soldiers from Rock County, cutting out dresses for Belgian children, forming an auxiliary of the Red Cross with the hostess of the meetings donating 50 cents to the Red Cross in lieu of serving refreshments at that meeting, and collecting old silver with proceeds from the sale to be given to the war effort. So this was, I thought, very interesting bit of our history. Discontinuation of meetings was held from October 1917 to January 1918 because of the Spanish flu epidemic, when everyone was quarantined. Does that sound familiar? During the COVID pandemic from March 2020 for about a year, under Kate's great direction, our chapter continued to hold meetings on Zoom. So things changed. We didn't have to shut down, but we were still quarantined, and I thought that was kind of interesting. During World War II, we had about 31 members then, and the members helped by knitting, sewing, and packaging surgical dressings, giving $174 in contributions, and $268 was donated to the purchase of war bonds and stamps, the Civil Defense Wardens, and the P.E.O. Victory Fund. So the chapter has, both of the major wars stayed very involved. So the second of our P.E.O., International P.E.O. projects started right after World War II in 1949, and it is called the International Peace Scholarship. And this is a scholarship that the PEOs decided to start watching what was happening in the world after World War II. It was the start of the United Nations and people coming together to try to hopefully keep peace forever in the world. And so we started this scholarship for women from foreign countries to come to this country and work on a graduate degree, with the stipulation that they go back to their home country and take that education back to that country to help the people in their country. Which I think, in 1949, that was pretty forward thinking for this group of women to come up with that. And through the years, our chapter has helped sponsor, we donate to that fund, but we get the names of IPS students that are here studying in this country. And as Kate said, we will reach out to them and send them gifts. And all of these women who get these scholarships say more than the money that they get, the support that they get from the PEO sisterhood is amazing for their education and just helping them get through that. So I'm going to turn it over to Sharon this time for the next part of our history.
So you've heard about our association with the hospital. We had associations with many of the communities in town. In the 50s, when we were reading the minutes, the school board came to PEO to talk about further expansion of the buildings. The library, there was a special committee of PEO to help with the library ongoing. And the hospital board came to PEO. One of the things that happened in the 50s was the tennis courts that had been donated to the bathhouse. The Old Town Hot Springs was called the bathhouse. They were in terrible shape. So they came back to PEO and we repaired them, or made sure they were repaired. We started a long association with the museum in 1959, and Pam's holding up a picture of Dorothy Wither, a PEO. She was the organizer and first benefactor of this museum. And our chapter honored her by having that portrait made by Bev Olson. The museum asked PEO to do the research by reading the area churches and school historical records to help with the history of Routt County since 1875. In the 70s, the museum asked PEO to help keep the doors open, and we hosted the grand opening in 1970. Something that happened about 10 years ago. Do you all remember the 3-wire winner project of taking the 22 issues? Tana Brock was one of the 2 teachers that instigated that and donated her time to help get that available digitally. Switching gears, we hosted another convention in 1964. This time we hosted at Perry Mansfield. There was no indoor plumbing at Perry Mansfield. Can you imagine hundreds of women? Yeah. So the Ski Inn provided all the food, and it was served at the high school gym, and the men shuttled us around by wagon. And back to Pam.
In 1973, we helped out the Alpine Meadows Nursing Home, and I'm kind of a newbie to Steamboat in Rock County, so I'm not even sure where that was. Do you know?
Up by the old house.
Up by the old hospital, okay. And we made cookies and sang Christmas carols at Alpine Meadows, and we supplied bingo gifts, bibs, and lap robes. So the third PEO project was started in 1973, and again, these forward-thinking women saw that there were many women returning to the workforce for various reasons. Maybe they were widowed, maybe they were divorced, maybe their family was in need of an additional income. And so PEO that year started the Program for Continuing Education. This is a grant of up to $4,000 that is given to women, and they are sponsored by a local PEO chapter. And again, through the years, our chapter has sponsored many women, and this last year, the same 2 women that got the ELF loan also got PCE grants through our sponsorship. And which is, exciting to see that, they then want to bring that education back here. In 1974, a Steamboat resident, Judy Smith, had received monies from PEO for her education in veterinary medicine. Shortly after she became a member of Chapter X, she was hiking and disappeared, and her body was found 2 years later. She apparently died in a hiking accident, and her father gave money to our chapter to operate a fund in her memory, the Judy Smith Memorial Fund. In 1996, our chapter was again given trust monies in memory of Maxine Elliott. And in visiting with both of those families, we joined those 2 funds together, and we call it the JSME Loan Fund. And so we have a local loan fund that gives up to $5,000 loans to women from Routt County to continue their education. And this last year, we've given out over $15,000 to 3 recipients. And over the years, it's over 37 young women. And the great thing about this one is it's 0 interest. We charge no interest, and we have never had a default on the loans that we give them. And again, support those women. And we have grown with the ages. We have helped them buy computers if they're doing an online course. And there are many young women, especially in our school system, that have gone back for a master's degree or something that have gotten loans from us. So it's exciting to see them then, raise new generations in our county through our help. In 1977, a fire destroyed the Whiteman School Library, and we helped to refurbish the library and replenish books, again in theme with education. On November 26, 1987, we celebrated our 75th birthday. And we had about 34 members at the Holiday Inn for that party. Susan Hoffner, who's here and is a 4th generation PEO, welcomed everybody that day. Frances Wheeler wrote a poem entitled The Diamond Crown. And 4 50-year members were present, including Mina Schmidt, whose picture was, there was a newspaper article. That was Mina. She was the oldest graduate of the Steamboat schools that year, and the two children who were with her are the class of 2005. And her class was 19 14 or 17, or I mean, it's like crazy. She was there. Alif Zahner, Pearl Staley, Staley Park, and Frances Wither. Since the founding in 1912, the chapter had grown from 9 members to 60 and has had 220 Route County Fair, if you guys do things with the fair, and the granddaughter of Hattie Yeager. In 2021, we sponsored Cassidy Wall, who is from Hayden. She won this scholarship as well as a Colorado State scholarship that's designed for young women who are doing post-high school training that is not a 4-year degree. And she went on to get a degree in, I think it was radiology technology. And then this year, we successfully sponsored Lila Baker, and she got the $2,500 award, and she's going to be going to University of North Carolina in biomed engineering. And some of you might recognize her name. She was the Youth Philanthropist of the Year a year ago, and is an amazing young woman. So the last PEO project is Cotty College, which is a liberal arts college for women in Nevada, not Nevada, Missouri. And it was started by a woman in the 1800s who became a PEO. And at the International Convention, which was held in Colorado in the 1920s, she gave the college to the PEO sisterhood. She was very elderly and wanted to be sure that this college would continue. And it is still continuing, a very vibrant school. It is now a 4-year college. It used to be 2 years, now 4 years, similar to CMC, which started as a 2-year, and there are now 4-year degrees. And the PEO International owns the college outright. Chapter X used to hold teas and breakfasts each year for junior and senior girls to familiarize themselves with Cotty College. And several women from the Steamboat area have attended Cotty through the years, including Sherry Yeager, who is, again, the daughter of Hattie. And I also attended Cotty from Wyoming. And so those are the PEO projects. I'm going to turn it over to Sharon now to give some more recent history.
You mentioned Shannon Valora. She's very active with the Hayden Museum. Can you hear me now? And have you noticed the riders in Winter Carnival? Those are all Yeagers. There's a puzzle at the bookstore, and Sherry Yeager and Shaylin are on the horses in that picture. So they've been involved with Winter Carnival since it started. We turned 100 in 2012, and we partied. In addition to partying, we decided to contribute to the community by volunteer hours. And we thought it'd be nice to volunteer 100 hours. We volunteered 1,230 hours. We continue to outreach. Every year we participate in the United Way Day of Caring, and our individuals and our members volunteer individually. I think Jackie Thornberry got Volunteer of the Year recently.
Second place last year.
You'll have to try harder. So you've heard about the scholarship and grant projects. We also have a project called the Marguerite Fund in Colorado. Some of the states have funds. They started, the history was right after World War II. It was called the Welfare Fund, and we changed it to be called the Marguerite Fund. We had a recipient here in Steamboat, Sherry Yeager. And to say thank you and to document the generational contributions that her family's made to PEO, they created a presentation. And the Colorado State chapter closed the convention with that presentation in 2022. It was powerful. Their way to say thank you. We've talked about the generational families that are PEOs, and I'm just going to name 2 of them. The Dorr family, starting with Frances Dorr Wheeler. You've probably heard Dorr and Wheeler. Her daughter, Hattie Yeager, And then Shannon Ballora was her granddaughter. Sherry Yeager, her sister. Lisa Long is Shannon's daughter, and Shaylin Dolahite is the niece. So 4 generations. And Susan is part of a 5 generation of Routt County women. Emma Conant, Eva Conant Lufkin, Doris Lufkin Scott, Susan Scott Hoffner, and Kelly Schwab, her daughter. We've had Pearl Staley as a state president, and from 1954 to 55. She was she served as our Colorado state president. We've also represented Northwest Colorado to the Supreme Convention, which was later named the International Convention. Every other year, the states send representatives to the international, and not every chapter is representative. They have area representatives. Pam Ruehle attended in 2013. Frances Wither attended in 1967, and I was able to attend in Phoenix last year. We mentioned Betty Smith. She was a school teacher. She died at the age of 101 and taught school in Morrison, Crouch, and Cow Creek school districts. We also have some notable women in our chapter. Kate Nowak was director of United Way. Pam Graham was the associate pastor at the United Methodist Church. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kate for our closing.
Thank you. Alrighty, so today, Chapter X of Routt County is thriving with 50 resident members. We are active in several fundraisers that we do to support these grants and scholarships. And we have monthly meetings and socials throughout the year. Our members continue to serve the community, both as Chapter X and individually, serving many nonprofit organizations. We are rooted in education, service, and lifelong connections. We continue to empower women through education locally and globally. Since the start of the first P.E.O. international project in 1907, the Sisterhood has helped more than 129 women pursue education.
129,000.
Sorry, 129,000. Pursue educational opportunities for $462 million in educational assistance. The JSME Loan Fund, we went back and looked at all the books. The Judy Smith and Maxine Elliott Fund, which is local. Since 1977, we have served 64 young women pursuing higher educations for $123,809. And just to reiterate, those loans are 0% interest. Not only do we give grants, loans, and scholarships, but we support the applicants and stay in touch with them throughout their educational career. And one of the local scholarships that we have is our $2,500 that we give to a graduating senior. And 2 years ago it was Allie Vose, and this year it was Sarah Hernandez.
Sarah
He. And I just wanted to read you her thank you note, because this kind of tells you a little bit about how P.E.O. selects candidates and supports them. Sarah He said, "Thank you so much." And I will say, to begin with, there were 4 P.E.O. women that met with her and interviewed her and decided that she deserved this scholarship. "Thank you so much for awarding me your scholarship. This truly means more to me than words can express. I am incredibly grateful that you all saw my accomplishments and chose to support me as I continue expanding my education and pursuing my future goals. The day I was interviewed by the 4 of you, I genuinely felt heard and seen. Your kindness and encouragement stayed with me long after that conversation ended. Knowing that there are people who believe in me enough to invest in my future is something I will never take for granted. Your generosity will allow me to thrive more comfortably in college, and for that I am deeply thankful. I truly hope we stay in touch because I genuinely adored meeting all four of you. Thank you again for your support, your kindness, and for believing in me. Love, Sarah Hernandez. So that just gives you a little bit about what we're all about. So one of the things that we do now, we do socials, we do some fundraising. One of the things we do is we sell pecans. And they're $15 for 1 pound of pecans. We'll start selling those next month. And I have some pecans to share. So please help yourself. Take a pecan and see how good they are. And if you'd like some, I'm happy to help you out.
We could take orders today.
So now, in conclusion, I'd like you to really think about all the women you know in your life. Your cousins, your nieces, your sisters. Do you know of a woman that could use a loan of $10,000 towards a non-degree accredited program or associate degree? Or how about 15 grand for a bachelor's degree? 20K for a master's degree? Or 25 for a doctorate? We have the Education Loan Fund, and we'd be happy to sponsor them through that application process. Do you know of an international woman who would like to study in the US or Canada? The scholarships are up to $12,000 for our International Peace Scholarship Program. How about a Colorado woman who wishes to attend County College in, not Nevada, Nevada, Missouri? We have a scholarship for that. Do you know of a woman whose education has been interrupted and who finds it necessary to go back to get a certification or complete a degree? We have continuing education, program for continuing education. Can you think of a woman who is pursuing a doctoral level degree? The award is now $25,000. It's our Scholar Award. Do you know of a high-achieving high school graduating woman who is local, who wants to enroll in an educational institution? We have a $2,500 scholarship program. Another Colorado award is for a resident who is in her second year and later and is pursuing a bachelor's or a master's, and that is the Colorado Chapter House Scholarship. Another Colorado woman award who wants to attend a non-traditional or vocational school within 2 years of graduating high school. We have a Colorado State Scholarship Award. Do you know of a woman living in Colorado who find themselves in need of short-term financial assistance, which is accompanied by an extraordinary circumstance? That's the Marguerite Fund. Do you know of a Routt County woman who wishes to further their education, has a high school degree, needs assistance, and has been accepted into college? We have loans up to $5,000 with the JSME Loan Fund. Thank you. And then finally, we have our $2,500 local scholarship fund. So with that, we thank you for your interest and attention, and now we'd like to open it up for questions.
Pam's going to take the questions.
I'll take the questions. Any questions?
Where do you have your meetings?
In members' homes, usually. Sometimes we meet we've met at the Methodist Church, we've met at the new community room at Mountain Valley Bank, and we've met at the museum. Not this museum, the art museum, in their big space. So we kind of meet all over, but mostly in members' or homes. Yes?
How does one apply for the scholarships?
How does one apply for those scholarships? Well, I happen to have a sheet that doesn't tell you how to apply, but it lists the projects that Kate just went over, and on the back is the email of our chapter president, who's Pam Rolfes, and our education committee chair, who is Joyce Snyder, and Susan Hoffner, who runs our JSME fund. And so most of the scholarships, they need to be sponsored by a local chapter. And so, which helps us, it helps them and it helps us, you know, rather than them, they can go online to the PEO International website and fill out information, and then we as the local chapter will get that information. But you can also hook them up with one of us, and we would be happy to help them. We love getting grants and scholarships and stuff for the women. It makes all those bags of pecans that we sell. I was at our state convention one year, and one of the nights at a banquet, that's a night that lots of times the husbands come to, and we always have an international officer there, and she gives a report kind of, you know, geared to the guests at that. And she talked about, you know, how much money, as Kate said, over 129,000 women and over $400 million since 1907. And this is when I still belonged to a Denver chapter, and the husband of another one of my sisters leaned over and he goes, "That's a lot of bags of pecans." Because our chapter also sold them. I mean, people all over the country do lots of different fundraisers, but all that money and stuff is raised by PEOs. PEO has a foundation that invests that money. And so we're very good stewards of the money that people donate to us. And what I love about it is you get a group of women together and great things happen. Not anything against the men in the room, but it's amazing what happens in the world when women come together and support women. And I mean, that's proven time and time again. That's not just my personal feeling. And so I really am passionate about what we do to help women reach for the stars. The other thing that I have is, if you would like more information about our chapter or PEO, I have a little form here. You can put your name and your email and your phone number. And Carol provided us with a great yellow pen with a daisy on it. So you could do that on your way out if you want to do that. Are there other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Kate knows I'm familiar with Women United,
Uh-huh.
United Way,
Right.
and is the only difference between the two organizations that you specifically zero in on women, and United Way sort of spreads it out? I mean, I've
Yes.
never heard of this group.
Well, you know, it's interesting because this group really did start as a sorority. And if any of you were involved, yes, it did. They wanted it to be a sorority because they weren't all invited to the same sorority, and they got mad and decided to create their own. And so there's kind of some, you know, chutzpah in there that's continued all these years. But they very quickly decided they didn't want it just to be a sorority. They wanted it to live on after campus life. And PEO is a sisterhood, so there's still some things. So to join PEO, you meet with PEOs and you're invited to join. It's not like Rotary where you show up and say, "I want to be a Rotarian." So that's a difference between Women United and PEO, is kind of how you join it. And then again, PEO across the US and Canada, our mission is women's education, and very much directed to women. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm very involved in Women United.
Right,
Just,
I mean, I
yes.
see the same women here that.
Yes, I know. Well, you know, that's kind of the
Is
way.
this redundant?
That's the way things roll. I think, you know, we're all passionate about different things, and yeah. Yes, Jackie.
I was just gonna say, PEO members, please raise your hands again. Okay, we know who to talk to now.
And most of them are my friends.
Yes. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, Karen.
I just have one comment. I found out about a month ago that our neighbor down the street here has a daughter who just got the Scholar Award. She's a doctoral candidate in Montana, so I'm sure it was a Montana chapter that recommended her to do her doctoral thesis on something about caddisflies in the environment. My fly fisher husband was really excited. Anyway, she said, "Isn't that the pecans you sell?" And I said to Jean, "It certainly is, so buy lots more."
Thank you all.
Yeah, are there others? Great, well, thank you, Katie, for asking us to do
Yes.
this. And the three of us thank our sisters who spent all that time going through the decades of minutes to pull all these nuggets out. And then hopefully we pulled, some slides. I tried to pull the pictures of ones where we knew the names so that you could see the names, but not all of them had the names, but they were kind of fun pictures. So thank you all.